2 of the homeschool proposition that it was Marcus Garvey School that we had actually introduced, but it was Carter with the coalition of teachers and myself that we actually introduced with a curriculum that was concentrated on African tradition. There with Taki Ratan, who has also made his transition on. He was there faithfully working with us, and we want to send a shout out and remember in his spirit because it was very necessary that we had males involved. And Taki Ratan was heavily involved in the makeup of the Carter G. Woodson School. As a matter of fact, he went on to have his own boys' school. So I want to say for the record, we made the correction. It was not. Uh, it was not. It was. I want to say for the record, it was not the Carter G. It was Carter G. Woodson School, and I think I may have said Marcus Garvey. So just a correction on that. And I will say that we are looking for invitations of families who would like to get their child enrolled in the Home Economic Hero Program in their public high school. If you need information, I am a consultant for the state for those candidates who are going for the CDA license. Hopefully, I'll be more visible in the actual high schools this year, promoting the home economic related occupations in those areas of hotel management for the students who enrolled in home ec in the HERO program, home economics and related occupations such as foods and textile, child development, and hopefully we're looking to add medical records onto that particular curriculum for internship. The students actually enroll in child development and then they go out and they intern in various different areas, some of them in fashion and retail, some of them in foods and nutrition, and hotel management, child development. These are actual internships that they are governed in and complete training in, and a lot of them are able to ascertain positions and jobs right out of high school. And this is a program that must be played out and must be encouraged. And I intend to do more work in the HERO program this year and going back into the school districts, volunteering my time to work with those home ec departments to recruit those students to enroll in child development. And there is an internship that they do in child development, which I can be of assistance in helping them to write their competencies, their 13 competencies that they must write, with having emphasis in 10 of those areas, with at least 10 hours in each one of those areas, and also presenting a portfolio of their collected work of those networking community companies who work with child development that they've collected their data. And then they also are giving a survey that's given out to the parents, and the parents actually complete the survey for the candidate based on how they perceive them doing in the classroom. And then after those surveys are collected, there is an actual exam that is given where it's proctored, and that exam is offered several times a year where you have to sign up for that exam, and that is a multiple choice exam. And then there is also an oral exam that are given with a, I think it's sort of like an oral or an essay exam. In addition to me coming out to do the assessment of that candidate in their environment, I come out for 3 hours to assess them uh, in their classroom environment work, and I make an assessment on how they're doing by grading them with scores and writing up an actual and paragraph or two of what I justify the scoring for. And these skills, all of these 5 areas are examined by a board, and the board makes the decision as to whether or not the 480 80 clock hours that they bring in are from their experience in working in their internship. They're given credit for that, and they must have 6 months of experience so that they can use that towards the licensing, and then their competencies that they've written, and then also after they've written their competencies, their evaluation, and all these things are looked at and they're decided upon by the board as to whether or not we want to extend them a license in child development. It's equivalent to a 2-year associate credential. So a lot of students who don't have high school diplomas in the past have been able to get that high school diploma waived. Now, I don't know if in the future now we are pushing for those candidates to go and get their high school diploma and get a GED. And now they've changed it from GED to another acronym, but we're encouraging them to get their GED because it's very vital if they want to go off to college that they have this GED. So we also work with those candidates who are not in the high school, who are basically working in child development. In order to get the scholarship, they must be working in the field of child development, and then they're granted a Teach Grant here in the state of Indiana. And that scholarship will allow them to pay for all of their academic training all the way up to a master's degree, which you don't hear very much about. And some states have run out of money, but then there are still states that still have that grant money under the Teach Plan here in Indiana. And if they choose to use that grant money, then out of their pockets, all they normally have to pay is less than $30. I think it used to be $25 that they will put up front for the application fee, and everything else is covered. And I think that's a great way to obtain your early childhood foundation. And if you want to go on for your bachelor's and your master's, you can. I never went through the program. I went through the traditional route of attending one of the top 10 universities for a bachelor's degree in the School of Family and Consumer Science. In Family and Consumer Science, you could specialize in the area of nutrition, food, nutritional and food, or you could specialize in the area of textile and working with. You can also specialize in the child development or family relations, marriage and family therapy. And I chose the educational route, which allows you to work in the hospital with families. Nevertheless, I was glad that I had this foundation because it led me all the way across the rivers and the ocean and the seas there to work for the United States government under contract with my undergraduate experience. However, they were glad that I had a master's degree in curriculum because I could help write curriculum and develop curriculum for their GS candidates who work for them. So what I want to say is child development is alive and well, still in demand. And for those high school students, I'm speaking to you, it is definitely open up for you working to internship in child development in right in your high school and get credential and obtain this license right before you graduate and come out of school with a credential that would allow you to go to work immediately to either work for yourself and developing your own family child care center or your own preschool center in the home, or going to work for an actual agency as a head teacher, or with a child development degree, you can obtain a head teaching position, and they do give an increase and a raise for those candidates who are working presently in child development and go back to school and get the CDA. Now, the CDA is not a degree, but it is a diploma equivalency to a 2-year associate. Some people go on and go for their 2-year associate, or they go on and go for their bachelor's. They just bypass the 2-year associate and go right into the bachelor's. And they can become credential in the area of a master's degree. And once they get their master's degree, then they can teach at the college like I did. I taught at the college for over 7 years in the area of early childhood development, and my area was language and literacy for child development. So I went back and got my graduate degree in English as a second language for literacy and language. So now I'm a specialist in child development and English as a second language. And that's one of the reasons why I opened up the Buddy School online to offer people an opportunity come in and get some foundation on language. And I also went through the literacy coach, and I'm a literacy coach, and I advocate for teachers introducing early literacy into the child development settings by going into the daycares and helping those daycare teachers to become literacy coaches so they can perpetuate the reading of literacy out in the community, and you just equip them and license them so that they can carry on the work. So that's one of the things that we're going to be doing heavily, and finding males to go out there and to introduce the literacy coaching license, and to be heading up some of the training so that they can go in. I can train them, send them out into the child care setting, and they in exchange will train the teachers that do the training of the trainers so that we can perpetuate reading as one of the highest priorities, and young preschoolers before they go to school who are reading. Most of the European children in Germany start school at 3, and they do advocate for early reading. And the earlier you teach the children to do phonetic blending, phonemic awareness, and the slide rule, as well as understanding another language. I do recommend that the preschoolers learn a second language, because it's far better to learn a dual language at an early age. And once we give these children this opportunity of learning a second language, then they do very well in their other academics. Now, I am saying this because I had proposed that we bring Black males in the public school to enroll in the child development courses at their high school level, and take these electives and get the credentials they need in order to come out and find employment. And the program that I am proposing is that the schools will allow me to come in and orientate the teachers or orientate the district about the opportunities that exist in early childhood development. I've been a part of this council for more than 2 decades now. I can say that I'm an expert in this field. I do know what the council requires in order to master taking that exam. I have been an advocate in the field for training those parents who did not want to go to the institutions and who wanted their trainings in the community, at the library, or offering classes at the laundromat, anywhere we could, to get them to sit down to hear what we had to say about setting up their own family child care. Then you did not have to be working in the field in order to qualify to go through the Teach Grant. Now they want you to be working in child development in order to qualify for the. Would definitely get serious about this and look at the opportunity of setting up your own independent schools. There's choice programs out there. And like I said, we set up the Carter G. Woodson School under the choice program, and I made a correction. It is not Marcus Garvey, so please don't look for Marcus Garvey School under the school there in Milwaukee. It is Carter G. Woodson School that was set up there in Milwaukee. Now, the choice schools began to experience a change and a switch. I haven't been there, so I don't know what's going on with the school, but it was right there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where Taki Ratan was one of our Envision founders of the school, as well as myself. And also Mrs. Metter and a number of other people who were involved in the foundational curriculum of setting up that particular choice school. And we started with the early childhood concept. We trained all of our workers in the early childhood for 9 months, and then they took all the curriculum from me and got the foundation for being an early childhood teacher. Then there were other early childhood teachers in the community there that the city of Milwaukee allowed me to interview over 100 women and make the decision which women would be appropriate to set in the program and to take them off welfare. So we were able to get many women off welfare and get them being entrepreneurs, owning their own business in child development. Now I've learned a little bit more because I've gone through the the WIP program, and learning about how to set up your entity as a corporation, as an LLC or sole proprietor, C Corp or S Corp, and how to get your certification for the county as well as certification to do business with the government. And these are things that women don't get a chance to hear about. But being able to do business with the government would give you an upper hand because you'd have a license to get those contracts to bid on position. There are a number of women that have gone overseas that work for the government, that work in the area of child development. There's a big need for child care workers to go over as after school specialists, center directors, child care, curriculum, and instructions. So there are a number of areas that I can offer assistance in helping you to apply for government jobs once you obtain your CDA, and applying for a government job like a GS-7 job to start with, going all the way up to a GS-12 or GS-13, and taking a job with the government and having the ability to bid on position, because you would go through the route of getting your certificate to bid on government contracts. So that's a big area that we need to be pushing and that we should hear about with more lectures on how you can get involved in working for the government. It was a great experience for me. It allowed me to have my career, my dual career in singing while abroad, and it allowed me to have some great opportunities. And I think if mothers, if you get behind your children, if they're not sure what electives to take during their senior year, tell them to take the consumer science, child development, and hopefully we'll be looking at adding some of the allied health professions in there, like medical records or medical coding. And you've heard me speak on that before. And that's one of the programs we are putting into our institute is medical coding for the home health industry and hospice and OASIS. So it's a different path than the AAPC or the HAHIMA. It's a path of home health, and it falls up under, I think, the HCCA, which is a little different because it's home health. But that is one of the areas that I do specialize in, and I offer training in medical terminology, anatomy, and physiology. And we're going to have those 3 courses in our institute for those students who would like to enroll in those programs for medical records and medical coding. Now, I've said a whole mouthful. I just wanted to bring that back to you. It's late now, and I know that tomorrow I'll be busy, so I won't be able to get right into another segment, but hopefully later on in the evening tomorrow, we'll be able to come back at you to possibly even entertain some of you subscribers who are subscribing. Hit that subscribe button down below and the bell too, so you'll know when I'm on speaking, and become a regular subscriber and a follower. And I do speak periodically on Facebook, and go out and become a Facebook friend. I have tons of Facebook friends, but very few followers. I would that you would be a follower. And I would like to thank you for tuning in this evening to my show. I know you have many places you could have been, but this is part 2 of looking at the homeschool for the African American Black male only. I brought this subject up because we need more Black male teachers And we need to look at pulling our Black boys out and doing a unique program for them because they're failing so terribly in the public school system. Not to dismantle the public school, but we have to do something to rapture our Black boys and snatch them out of the fire to give them a better chance of walking away with credentials and a job. There's far too many Black men that have degrees and credentials and no job. So we're about the business of helping Black males become entrepreneurs and setting up their own job. So once they finish, they know that they have a business entrepreneur background and a foundation to set up their own entity, whether to incorporate themselves as an LLC, C Corp, S Corp, or sole proprietor, and then go on to structure themselves in a way that they're running a business. And this can be a legacy for them and not just another job. And I found that in the Home Ec area, I've been able to feed my family with this credential and getting a 4-year bachelor's degree. It opened up doors for me to work for the United States government and to allow me to have a contract with the United States Army. And that's because I had the child development as a foundation and then the master's degree. You will need to get certificated as a master's degree or credential as a master's degree if you want to go on to be like a GS-9 or GS-12 in the government system. And I can tell you more about that. And there will be more segments on that. We are busy setting up our radio show, getting that back together. We have some of our websites that are done now that are interactive websites where you can get membership and be a part of our basic society. Our basic society, we put down a fee of $3, but we're looking at waiving that fee of $3 for the first year for those basic users. And then after a year, you pay your $3. It's a small, nominal, insufficient fee where you can go on the website and gain all sorts of information and opportunities. We will have the CDA program on there and step by step showing you how to enroll in the CDA program and what prerequisites you need to have. And I would say that you come out of high school, at least have a high school diploma as a foundation, because at one time they waived that, but now I'm suggesting you have a high school diploma before you enroll in the CDA program. It is in the high schools, the child development program in your home ec departments that still have home ec department. They do have CDA program there. And some of you will be seeing my face here in Indiana in those schools because we're going to be pushing the home economic effort and agenda to get people more credentialed to own their own child care centers and family resource centers connected to that. We are proposing that a family resource center be connected to the Child Development Center as a way to building our community back up and bringing in the family as the center and not just raising up a village. We want to create, not just raising up the child in the village, we're trying to build a village in the community. So I'd like to thank you for going back with me, and I will see you in the future, and I say straight ahead and into the future with all of you. Have